All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Discipline Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, EL Discipline. Usually alongside me is Sujey Sotomayor. However, she's feeling a little under the weather. But like I always say, the show must go on. All right, so I'm gonna hold it down for the both of us. Before we get into everything, quickly, y'all know y'all fiends and y'all know what that means. I'm serving you your dose weekly of discipline therapy, but not everything is completely free. As we're also on Patreon for a plethora of exclusive content for you to see. But what is free is a judgment free, sucker free, censor free, sensitive free, and plenty of liberty. God and the ancient ancestors are great, and that means everything else is straight. So go grab your wine, popcorn, and my favorite roll of blunt. But make sure children are in bed. Why? Because I got that soul food and sometimes vulgar conversation prepared mind to be fed like one up, inhale life, and exhale strife. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, you are tuned in to the Discipline Therapy Podcast. I'm here. All right. I'm excited to get to this topic, but ABC. So all the links are in the description. First and foremost, we're also on major listening platforms like Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Deezer, Castbox, iHeartRadio, etc. All right, Google the Discipline Therapy Podcast. You'll find us somewhere. All right, got that out the way. Now, the second line of business is the links are in the description. So become a Patreon member. Um, you know, also EL Discipline books are out. I have that pop up. That's also in the links below the video. Seven, many different genres. You're gonna like one of them. Um, also for Patreon, I have exclusive content there, bloopers behind the scenes, erotica posts I do by myself, and writings. Um, I also have collaboration shows with Suhei where we talk about conspiracy theories, government conspiracy theories, sports conspiracy theories, transgender, grape, domestic violence, etc. There's a bunch of different tiers. Go and, sort it out within yourself, whatever is subjective for you. All right. Let me see. Did I forget anything? No. All right. So, yes, wait, one more thing. The clothing line. Um disciplinetherapy.launchcart.store/shop. New gear hitting every month. So go check it out. Once again, all the links are in the description. At your prerogative. Like, go through it. Now, third line of business, the topic. So we are in season 18, episode 190. All right, so it's one of my favorites. We're gonna do a part two for sure. It's gonna be a different topic, but it's gonna be along those same lines. I don't know if it's gonna be the next one or two or three after that. You're gonna have to keep tuning in to find out. Episode 190. Are we fundamentally good or bad? Many can argue that human nature is a complex mix of good and evil tendencies, influenced by individual choices or societal factors. So many things play a factor, or are we fundamentally good or bad? It could be modern perspectives, it could be societal influence, individual choices, etc. So fundamentally, we're looking at core, we're looking at basic, we're looking at the building blocks of something. Um, and that could be shaped in your experiences, environment, and stuff of that nature. So I wrote down some notes. All right, here they are. So I don't go off on the tangent because I could be here talking for like 3 hours, but I'm talking about this topic, and then 2 seconds later I'm talking about that. I don't want to lose y'all, so I want to stay. I want you to stay focused. You know what I'm saying? Just like a novel of a book. You're reading that book, and then you're engaged in it. You are enthralled by it because it just connects the dots. The story continues. All right, so we're gonna get into that. So just overview, because I like to do this just like the author, the table of contents, then introduction, and stuff of that nature. The introduction kind of gives you an idea of what the book is going to be about. So same thing with these bullets that I wrote of an overview of what I'm going to be talking about. Environmental, education from the house, outside of the house, friends, people you associated with, family, their way of thinking, experiences, trauma, um, ethics, principles, subjective core values. Um, Let me see, and then everything else will freestyle. All right, so fundamentally good or bad. Um, So I think that you could look at it from many different perspectives. So there's some people out there who are spiritual, and then some people out there who are religious. So most religious people will go by the Bible and those type of literary content, and they will base their ideology off of that. So maybe they look at the story of Adam and Eve, and they can think, well, we are fundamentally good. Once Eve bit the apple, she cursed us, and then now, in some, versions, like maybe like King James version, John 3:16, for God to love the world, he gave his only begotten son, whosoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. So some people believe that in order to cleanse the sin, God had to send his son to die for us to free us, because we are fundamentally good. And then with the whole serpent thing of Eve listening and then influencing Adam, they both bit the apple. Now they realize they're naked, they have consciousness, they got kicked out the garden. I was raised in the church, so I remember all this stuff. But different religions are different, right? That's like a King James version, Christians, maybe Catholics, stuff of that nature. It could be a lot different with like Islamic faith and stuff. Um, so some people maybe think of it in that regard of we are fundamentally good, but there's no right or wrong answer for this topic of question. It's more so about a question I have for you to think internally. So my final thoughts will be questions. And like I said, we're gonna do a part two. Might get a caller or two for that. Hopefully we get Suhei back. Might just be a bug or something, a flu. Hope she feels better. But like I said, I'm gonna hold it down. So once again, it could be subjective. Are we fundamentally good or bad? It's subjective. It really depends on how you view yourself, maybe how society, your friends, colleagues, etc. All right. So your environment can shape how you view the world. So if you were now now I want to give context because it's very important. Some people could think, well, naturally, if you're in a low income environment where there's excessive crime, of course you're probably gonna be fundamentally bad. See, that's why context is important. You could be in Beverly Hills where, yeah, there's crime there too, but it's not like recorded. You don't see that on the news because that's not interesting. It's not common. We are like, here's the place that has the most trauma already, and these are the people that watch this type of news. So we're gonna keep it like that. But the stuff that's happening over there, we'll push it on the rug. We don't want that to be seen as a traumatic environment. But there's crime that goes on everywhere. So maybe in Beverly Hills, it's less crime versus something going on in Compton, Crenshaw, or like Tribeca, and then Brownsville, Brooklyn. An environment can be, you know, let me expound where you are as far as demographic and the world and school and city and town and state. Internal environment, your household, the domestic environment, both parents, single parent, You can have trauma living in Beverly Hills as well, based off how you interact. So for example, a silver spoon baby, born rich, trust fund, Beverly Hills, didn't experience trauma, but now has these spoiled tendencies, can be seen as fundamentally bad. Maybe their parents were bad. Maybe their parents got to riches, not really doing moral things, doing immoral things, and those kids are aware of it, and they just follow the footsteps of their parents. They treat the kids at school like shit, who aren't like them in that type of social economic background as their parents and stuff of that nature. And they don't have no remorse. They don't feel bad about it. Can we consider them fundamentally bad, evil? It's subjective again, right? Because maybe I can see them that way. They don't see themselves that way. The friends who are like them don't see themselves that way. Maybe I don't see themselves that way. Maybe they see themselves that way and they don't care. They know they're fundamentally evil or bad. So that's one. Education from outside the house. Just because you have two parents um in the house and you see love doesn't necessarily mean that kid is gonna grow up to be just like them, decent or good. Because when they leave their parents, they go to school. Those friends are not friends that their parents would approve of. They're doing things in the street. They're with the wrong crowd, etc. So the people that they're associating with, same thing. That's shaping, are they fundamentally good or bad? They could be born good, you believe, and then they just turn bad. They could be playing both very well. So like I said earlier, like we have like a mix of both innately, and once again, these terms can be subjective. So bad, bad maybe isn't evil, so a fundamentally good girl can be bad with certain people, maybe solely in the bedroom. Maybe when you get her to that brink of frustration, it's all subjective. What do you think is good or bad? Experiences trauma. Would you lie on the stand to protect a loved one? Something I wrote down. Would you lie on the stand to hurt someone? Especially if there were monetary advancements that played a factor. Does code or ethics and principles waver, that as well? Can those things play a factor of you being fundamentally good or evil? How you treat a loved one. For example, let's say a man is with a woman who is um like financially, we could say, the breadwinner in society, her career path, she's the breadwinner in the home. He's not making any money. Um and those are many different circumstances of why that's not happening. We all probably saw Baby Boy, the film. Rest in peace, John Singleton. She was working. He came home. He came home. So he didn't have anything. Most people won't hire felons, so that's a situation where they don't have a source of income, and she does. Um, that person takes their check. The man, let me put more context. The man is taking her check every week or every 2 weeks, depending on the region, job. Most people get paid every 2 weeks. Taking her check. Perhaps like I'll use that film to make people understand even better. He doesn't have any type of assets, so he doesn't have a car. So he drives her to work so he could drive around all day, go smoke and drink with my friends, go to the club, this and that, which is direct correlation because I'm taking her money to do all this other stuff. So he drops her off from work, picks her up, uses the car, physically abuses her, verbally abuses her, not really leading there. No, not really, not leading at all. Subjectively, like we can look at that and say, oh, it's not fundamentally bad or evil because we got to look at his circumstance. And then there's other people that are like, it doesn't matter their circumstance. They're fundamentally evil. They're fundamentally bad. That's somebody that they claim they love, they sleep with, um, they're supposed to protect, and they're taking advantage of them. They're abusing them. And they don't feel no remorse. They sleep well at night. They don't feel guilty at all. They don't even question what they're doing. They're fundamentally bad. It depends how you see it from your lens. So like I said, there's no right or wrong answers in this. It just comes down to who's dissecting what. So, um, if you don't have a code, because that would probably be in direct correlation with that. Like if you have a code as the man, and I'm not picking on the men, but we've seen TV shows or films more like this. So I'm kind of bringing something familiar to make it familiar for you to understand. So the man doesn't have a code. He doesn't feel less of a man to wanna just freeload. That doesn't make him feel bad. He doesn't bruise his ego or his dignity, self-respect and righteousness. He doesn't feel any type of way. So in that regard, there's no moral there. There's no moral compass. There's no principles. There's no character. Um, if there's a lack of these things, could that also mean someone, man or woman, is fundamentally bad? Um, what makes someone fundamentally good? Is it the charity that they give that they're also gonna get a tax write-off of? Is it, I'm creating this building for people to come and worship? I'm a reverend or something or pastor. Is it you just being loyal to a friend of 20 years since we've been high school where parents know each other and whatever? Are you being fundamentally good? Is it, lending a friend money when they need? Is it doing favors for people and not wanting anything in return? Is it not keeping count? Is it having values? Is it keeping your word? Is it having principles? Is it knowing your worth and dignity and boundaries and not compromising those boundaries? Does that make you fundamentally good? Subjective. I'm giving context and examples for people to think and understand. Does that make you fundamentally good? Like what makes someone good? Because they're not doing what the bad people are doing, but what the bad people are doing, who's saying that's bad? Is it once again society? Is it the people? Is it the government? Is it the laws? Like, for example, are the mafia, are they gangsters? What is a gangster for real? Is it, what society says it is? Are they associated with thugs? Is it synonymous? Um, you know, if they have a code, are they fundamentally bad? If they say no women and children, are they fundamentally bad still? Can you play both sides of the fence? You're either a civilian or you're a gangster. You, is it we don't do the innocent, only our kind? Because if they're a civilian, they're off limits. They're a civilian. They're not a thug. Is that fundamentally good if they're following certain rules, even if it's within their hierarchy or their group? Most popular kids in high school, I don't know what they call them. Are those people like fundamentally good, or because they how they treat people, or everybody loves them, or are they fundamentally bad because they look down upon everybody else that's not in that realm? Like, they wouldn't be friends with anyone else that's not in their lifestyle. um so does that make them fundamentally good or bad? Does someone's actions make them fundamentally good or bad? The the homeless man in the street, they want to take a picture with them, showing that they're donating. And you know if if someone does something like that, does that negate the good deed? Does that make them really fundamentally bad because they have ulterior motives? It's conditional. Like, if you have your cup out begging for change. If I give you change, can we take a photo? Do I have your consent for that? And if I could post it on online and whatnot, like, does that make them fundamentally bad, even though they did a good deed? um what they did, that act after, is that bad? It's all subjective. You know what I'm saying? On how you view it, depending on the person too. um Whether they have these certain codes or not. So if someone doesn't have a code, does that mean they're fundamentally bad? Or if someone has a code, does that mean they're still fundamentally good? I don't think if someone has a code, principles, values, don't necessarily mean they're fundamentally good, or not evil. They can still be evil. They can still be bad. So it's all subjective. Like, what makes good or bad? Are the definitions like universal? Does society shape this? Is criminal bad, or the extent of their criminality is what makes them bad? Um, do they support those immoral acts? Does that not make them feel, well, if it's not happening to me, does that kind of make them fundamentally bad? Does If somebody does not have empathy, does that make them fundamentally bad? It's so much questions. Is evil needed sometimes? What about goodness? Um, are we fundamentally good or bad? So, like, if is like is evil needed? Like, you heard the expression crime pays, literally. So we have law enforcement to enforce the law, and you know, if there's no crime, will people be out of work? How would they feel their families in that field? It's crazy. You know, um, is it designed, this way? Is there an agenda? Like, the people that run the world, it's not the president. There's people behind the scenes. Are they fundamentally good or bad? You know, um, is a certain country fundamentally good or bad? Is the countries that show more camaraderie, are they fundamentally good? Or are they fundamentally bad? Like, you got you gotta understand that The way I look at this topic is whatever your definition of good and bad is, you subjectively have to look at that because what you think is bad, I might think is normal or good. And what I think is bad, you might think, or evil, you might think is nothing. So let me give more context. Let's say BDSM lifestyle in bed is how I view all couples should engage in sex. Like I think an experience, you connecting with a woman connecting with you, it's an exchange of energy. There's a bond you're creating there. There's soul connection. There's there's communication within bodies. You know, it should be like amazing. You shouldn't be having boring sex. So if I look at BDSM lifestyle or even the bedroom BDSM, because there's two, 24/7, it's both. But you got some part timers. You got a BDSM bedroom person, but outside they are modern. You have someone that's in the lifestyle, and then maybe they're not in the bedroom and they don't know. And I'm not going to talk about BDSM here, but that's for Patreon. But just to give you guys more context, I might say that's normal. That's how I view it should be with men and women. Men lead, women follow. Dominant, submissive, masculine, feminine. Someone else can say that's bad. That's not a good man. That's not how you should treat your woman. That's abuse. That's not consent. That's bad. That's evil. Um, now when I look at another scenario where I say, oh, if the woman is an escort, um, she's scheming, whatever, to get to that level, um, and of being at the center of attention, especially for the male gaze. And she's taking advantage of these guys, slipping them stuff in their drinks, doing whatever they gotta do so they could get more advances from them. They're uh, showcasing their body online, not even escorts, regular women posting booty pictures and stuff. They're in relationships, or they're single, they're doing it. And I'm like, that's fundamentally bad. That's fundamentally whorish. That's evil. That's a thirst trap. You evil. And then you're gonna complain why they can't treat you like a lady. Then you're gonna complain why they're so thirsty. You can't find decent men. You can't find good guys. Blah blah blah. Oh, you dangerous. You're evil. You know what you're doing. And then a man who doesn't have the same type of ideology, or a woman, because I don't want to just say women, because most women will just back up other women. Yeah, bitch, get your bag, get whatever it goes. So I want to say men, because there's men out there like this too. I would call them male feminists. Both men and women that do not have this ideology will say, not even blink an eye. That's normal, bro. Relax. That's nothing bad. That's not evil. She gotta do what she gotta do, right? To get to where she needs to be. She's already born with the disadvantage because she's a girl, which is not true. But they will think like that based off what? Social constructs, society shaping your mindset. They don't know. So then they're like, oh well, she's already at a disadvantage. So whatever she's doing, that's not bad. That's not evil. Let her get what she gotta do. Let her get her bag. OnlyFans, whatever it is, let her get her bag. You know, so that's what I mean. So it really comes down to you. That's why I said earlier, like this is not there's no right or wrong answer for this. It is subjective, you know. Um and you know how people view it. So I could be a good man, bad boy. Which is kind of like a contradiction, but it exists. The bad that I do could not be bad based off some people's ideologies because you're not breaking the law, you're not hurting anybody, especially your love. You're not abusive. You're not putting somebody in a cage or locking them in a closet every day and being like, I'm gonna feed you through here. I'm gonna feed you through a straw. Um, I'm gonna do that. Like, it comes down to subjective. You know what I'm saying? It comes down to what you can view it as to um sustain your gut health metaphorically. So this is why, like, in my lifestyle, we have certain things called hard and soft limits. I don't want to get into the mediaism realm. That's on Patreon, but I'm gonna brief just to make people understand. That is a negotiation process of the things that are grotesque. So now it comes down to when you are finding, like, let's get into the realm of the relationship real quick. I don't like to talk about it relationship too much because we're not a relationship podcast. In the relationship aspect, if there is not no any boundaries set in any regard of consent, is it fundamentally bad with the things that end up going on prior? I mean after that. Is it fundamentally bad? Is the man or woman fundamentally bad? Is he fundamentally bad because she liked that and she takes it? Is he fundamentally bad because he is the administrator of it and he doesn't have any type of remorse? I want you to get ridden on like a train by all my dudes. You know what I'm saying? I don't see it like that bad. They want some too. So if he's willing to do that, is he fundamentally bad? I think he's fundamentally bad. But I'm saying, I'm making it subjective. At this point, it matters about how you view it, because other people may not seem like that. People that I think are brains warped, but once again, it's my opinion only, may not be true. But there might be other people that think like me who agree with the same, and then there's other people that don't. If I believe that his brain is warped, I believe that what he's doing is fundamentally bad. He's not protecting her. He's putting her at risk for many things to occur. He's not territorial, which is gonna question my love for him. He's for her. He's not caring of her safety and no priority. And he's most likely not engaging in any consent there for him to be willing to do that. If she isn't cool with that situation and she engages in it and allows them to do that to her, is she fundamentally bad? But is she fundamentally good because she's riding for her man? Because that's what the weirdo likes. And once again, I'm not saying he's a weirdo. I'm just saying I believe he is, but other people don't have to agree. So is that what it is? That the stamp there in that regard? You know, um, so if he doesn't advocate for consent, is he fundamentally bad? You know, if he lives a lifestyle like that but advocates for consent, is he fundamentally bad still? Or is he good? Because now the woman is saying, yes, I will be here. No, the door's over there. You could go whenever. I don't want to go. Is consent only verbal? Is it nonverbal? Maybe that's another topic. I don't want to, get off the handle here. I want to stay on track. Um, it comes down to subjective. It comes down to what you're taught, your environment. Um, do you have principles? Do you have values? The education you've been bestowed since generation to generation. Are you good or bad to yourself? Are you fundamentally good or bad to yourself? If you don't have discipline in your life and you don't care about whether you grow or not, you stay toxic or you go healthy, is that mean because you don't care about yourself to heal? Does that mean you're fundamentally bad? Or does that mean you're fundamentally good? Which are you? Are you fundamentally good or bad? This is what I'm gonna say to end my final thoughts. How you view yourself is important, and then the people that you care about or your circle, how they view you should be important to you. You don't have to care about what everybody thinks because that's gonna stress you out. You're gonna end up like trying to do everything to please everybody, and then you're gonna burn yourself out because you're being different things because people are fickle and they all like different things. So when you are those different things, you're gonna get those likes from them because you can be all those different things. Um, so that's what I would say. How you view yourself is important, and how your circle, the people you care about, you keep in your circle, whether it's friends, family, um, maybe business relationships, um, marriage, right? How they view you should mean a lot to you too. So if both of those are the common denominator of fundamentally good, then you're fundamentally good. That's one part. The second part is, what do you do naturally? What is an intrinsic moment for you? Feeling, um, action, whatever. That is where you are. So once again, how you view yourself and how your circle views you should be important to you. And that's like the truth of what it is. If you view yourself as bad and all your circle as well, you are. That's the number one. But if you also naturally get into evil and bad, then you are that. But it's very hard for you to view yourself bad and your circle to view you bad for you to also think, no, I'm good. That's impossible because we attract what we are. So you got to understand that if you are fundamentally good, you're gonna just naturally do that even without an award for it. Oh man, you know what? I got into an argument with her. You know, we got into an argument. She didn't call me out my name. I didn't call her out her name. But and in that regard, we're both kind of giving each other the silent treatment. You know how like Caribbeans are, you know, people who aren't really American, they have more pride than Americans. So that might be a situation. But in that regard, I'll say, I'm still gonna provide here without saying it, but displaying it with my actions. For example, we go out, I'm still holding your hand, but maybe we're not really talking. Hey, move over here. We move to the other side. Move over here. I'm on the side of the traffic. But it's something that's understood that doesn't need to be explained. I'm just saying it verbally so you guys can understand. So he just kind of like moves her. They don't talk. She kind of just knows what to do, and then they go this way. So he's prioritizing her safety. Um, Perhaps the woman, I I wrote this with the Sophia character that I created in the Stuck Between Two Different Worlds book series. There was a situation with Dom and her. She was still cooking, but if she was fundamentally bad, would she say, "Starve, nigga"? Like, I don't care. Like, you know how to make food, make it yourself. Or all these other things that she would want to do to the house. Would she take it out on the kids? Would she not? Would she still be a good parent to the children? Would she still do her wifely duties? Would she still remain loyal and not want to go out there and cheat? If I'm just speaking subjective, and nobody has to agree with me. If she is retaining all those things as well of her true nature, she is fundamentally good. Even if she is bad, bratty, whatever, because she didn't cheat. She's still cooking. She's still doing her wifely duties. She's not calling them out her name. She's not talking shit about him to her friends, family, turning them against him, because now when y'all get back together, your friends still got a lot of disdain towards him. How you gonna rebuild that? Oh yeah, he's good again. All that shit you just told me the other day, girl. Now it's all good. Nah. I don't like the nigga. I don't like him. You should have never told me about him. So does that make her fundamentally good? In my eyes, yes, but somebody else could see differently. What if she is doing all those things, and then the moment you do something, or you do something that she doesn't agree with, she's no longer submissive. She's no longer doing her wifely duties or whatever it is. Girlfriend, she's now going to retaliate, post her body online, bring up her roster back, um, reactivate her account. Maybe she deleted it. Do whatever it is, go online, put herself out there, talk to that work husband finally. Um, taking it out on the children, not doing the housely duties, whatever it is. Does that make her fundamentally bad? Because she can just naturally do that with no remorse, and sleep well at night. What does it come down to? Like, this is such a good brain teaser. Um, it matters how you think, and then your circle. That's what shapes that mentality. So how you think of yourself is gonna affect how you are. So if you think highly of yourself, you're always gonna be like vibrating on a high frequency. If you don't, you're always gonna be vibrating low. You know, and you're not like, you don't know how to motivate and inspire other people. To get them there. Now, if you think that you are fundamentally bad and evil, that's what you're gonna attract. We attract what we are. So even if you look at a bad boy, sometimes it's because he attracts that good girl because there's good in him. Because he would just naturally go after the bad girl, the whores and all that, like scheming, doing whatever, plotting, bad, just, lying, going to the cops, saying shit, retaliating, no remorse, eviscerating you, emasculating you, no remorse. Then he would naturally just go to that because he's bad. We can't, like, certain things, we can't judge a book by its cover. You gotta really dive in and get to the piece. There's certain things that you will judge a book by its cover based off your own protection and stuff of that nature. You know what I'm saying? Um, what somebody's doing, activities and stuff like that. You're out there with those dudes. Like, how old are you? And you're trying to be in the hood, showing that you know these type of peoples, and you're recording it. Um, don't you got things to lose, business and stuff? Like, in that regard, you're doing that, and now you're saying, like, trying to be good. It's not. No, that's who you are. So it's like, you gotta understand, the good girl is attracted to the bad boy because there's something dark inside her. There's something, um, maybe evil, that can bring out or reveal. If what you do, it just comes natural, and you just don't blink an eye at doing it, and it doesn't make you feel bad doing it because it's natural, sleep well at night and stuff of that nature after doing it, then you are that. Whether it's fundamentally good or bad, that's what that is. Fundamentally, it's gonna be like innate, your core. That's what it is. Intrinsic. So if you like if you rob old ladies, you are fundamentally bad. If you have a woman and you're a man, and you whether you're a girl or man or a woman, you rob old lady. Um If you're a man or woman and you don't treat your significant other good, you are fundamentally bad. Now, the bedroom's a different situation. You know what I'm saying? So, um, if you are treating them bad in the bedroom, you have something inside you that you could unleash to get into that. Because a fundamentally good person can't do that. You know what I'm saying? And not have any remorse. So you gotta understand that there are there are tweaks to this, and what is really good, what is really evil, what is really bad. So I think that, is it bad if it's being done to society and a whole bunch of people are losing out? Is it is it good? If it's rewarding society? If it's rewarding society, it could be bad for certain groups of people. Maybe simps are rewarding society because they're pocketing off of that. Male feminists, feminism, female feminists, they're pocketing off of that. But is it hurting the dating market? Is it hurting people that want to build families and traditional people or whatever, modern people? Like, is it hurting those type of people who aren't those nouns, have those adjectives, and, you know, embodying that lifestyle? It all comes down to perspective now, and subjective. What is fundamentally good or bad? My perspective is, if it's immoral, if it lacks principles, um, good character, um, righteousness, virtue, if it lacks that, it is fundamentally bad. My perspective. Everybody can think differently, but that's what it is, based off all those categories that I have to put the common denominator where it's lumped in. So now, when you look at what is fundamentally good, maybe the opposite. What is righteous, virtuous, good deeds, doing things for family and not expecting a reward. Um, you know, your significant other, not keeping score. Like, we're not married or dating. I mean, we're not married or living together. Oh, you said you needed groceries. You don't want to wait. Let's go get them. Oh, I'll pay you back. Yeah, whatever. You know, I'm not keeping score. Whenever you can. Um, is that fundamentally good? You know what I'm saying? Or is that bad? Some people could say that's simping, but if you choose right, it ain't. It's simping if she dogging you. And some people might not understand what that is. Metaphorically, she's playing you. Yeah, it is. You know what I'm saying? She's not loyal. She's not submissive there. But if she's doing her part, she deserves to be treated like a queen. Easy. You know what I'm saying? There's rules to royalty. You gotta follow these rules, abide by these rules, get royalty. Like, I think every man thinks like that. Um, so I think that you gotta understand, like, what is your connection with the fundamentally good or bad, you know, based off your principles, or if you don't have any, based off your character. Like, some people know what they're doing is wrong. Some people know, yo, I ain't shit. I ain't got principles and whatever. I'm fucked up. Like, they know that they are. And then some people won't even engage in that type of verbiage. No, I'm a man of my word. It doesn't matter. I do it in a corporation. I do it in a relationship. I do it with a project. I do it on a show. I do it when it's time to public speak. I do it if let's say hypothetically somebody was to go to church. They start at a certain time. I'm not gonna get penalized if I go in late. I'm just always a early person. I've always said that. I'm a man of my word or a woman of my word. I stay true to that. Does that make them fundamentally good? Because they keep their moral character. They don't compromise that. It's time to get a deal. They say, here's the money on the table, but you gotta bend over and let a guy do you. If they say, I'm turning down this deal, I'll find it my way. Does that make them fundamentally good? Because they're against that. You know what I'm saying? They're against homosexuality. They don't believe in that. They're not that. They're straight. So if that's part of their character, would they um would they just be fundamentally good because they don't believe in that and they are not that, so they would not allow that to happen to them for them to take that deal. I'm not a slave. I'm not going to do that to get that. That's important for him. So is that or her, is that fundamentally good because they're willing to not compromise their character? Nobody would know. Maybe they're recording it for, you know, leverage down the line for blackmail. Who knows? But are they fundamentally good because they didn't engage in that, what they don't believe in? That's too extreme. Let's go where it's not extreme. But this is the Disciplinary podcast. I always get extreme. But I'm gonna name different scenarios so people can understand even further. I'm anti-feminist. So the one that I'm most attracted to is one. Do I compromise that and get in there and not want to change anything? Get in there and just conform because I'm choosing my emotions over my logic. So if I do that and then now I don't even implement rules, my lifestyle, who I am, what I do, these boundaries, these are things I would not tolerate, these are things that I will. If I just go in there, go with the flow and equal, am I fundamentally bad? Because those are part of my principles, values, and now that becomes my makeup. If I compromise that for the emotion, am I fundamentally bad? Or am I fundamentally good? If I'm choosing the emotion because I want love and togetherness, or maybe some people are younger, still want a family, um, is that fundamentally good? Because now I could say, well, I'm gonna think outside of me. But if I know there will be dire consequences for that, going in withholding, especially who I am, and I know that, you know, not leading there will turn us down into a path of disaster. Am I fundamentally good still? Because if they're the feminists, they're not woken. And if you have the key to unlock their door of consciousness, why are you withholding that? Are you fundamentally good still? You understand? It's so hard. Like, it's easy to influence the little kid. Easy to influence the little kid, especially if they're looking up to you. So if you shaping them to know the game, the street game, you know, they're gonna grow up to be fundamentally bad. So are you fundamentally bad for doing that? It's just so many nuances and nooks and crannies to this. Different scenarios. The workplace. Do you still keep your integrity there? Are you then? If you don't, are you fundamentally bad? Um, so many things. It comes down to, like, if you have a no snitching code, um, and you snitch and become a rat, are you fundamentally bad? If you keep your codes and your values and your morals and your character, and you can elevate that character to even its optimal level. Um, and then you compromise all of that stuff that you believe in. Are you fundamentally bad? If you're doing it for to save a family member, are you fundamentally bad? You know, man, so many things to think about. You know, so many things. So what you value the most, if you're gonna lose that, would fundamentally good and bad play a factor? Now, so it's a lot of nuances to look at it. So, earlier I was saying how naturally it's a mix of both that we have in us. Um, and I believe that that's true. Because we kind of like cursed with how we were born and through evolution and stuff. So depending on whatever you want to believe, whether it's the Bible, whether it's science or spiritually. So that has kind of put us in a realm of having both instead of just having one. So I believe that I'm gonna end my final thoughts with this because I always say this. Oh, you can't be both. That's fake. You can't be a traditional modern person. And I'm gonna say the same thing. You probably heard it before. And when I say it again, you're gonna be like, oh, yup. Especially the avid supporters. Whatever you resonate with the most. I've always said this. So whatever you resonate with the most, you are. Even if you feel like you're multifaceted, you do this, you do that, whatever it is, I could say I'm an alpha, I'm a master, 5% alpha, this percent master, then I'm a dominant, then I'm an educator, then I'm an author, then I'm a motivator, then I'm a caregiver, then I'm a protector, and all these other things. Then I'm gonna say this in the bedroom, and then blah blah blah, and then I'm street, but then I'm also corporate, and then I'm good and I'm bad. Whatever you're coming down to one thing as the common denominator is what you are. I'm a dominant. That's like the core thing. So now if you're saying that you are good and bad, whatever you lean towards more naturally is what you are. That's your birthright. It could be a gift and a curse. And that could be sad for some people, and that could be good for some people. They could be thinking, damn, I thought I was bad. But now he broke it down. I'm looking at all these ways because I do think like that. I'm not saying all people think like me, but maybe I'm touching some people that I'm making them say, I do think like that. I'm not so bad after all. So that might build that level of consciousness. Now, but that's what I feel like it comes down to from my perspective only. Breaking it down as logically as I could. If you are okay with it's just intrinsic, you won't lose sleep at night, um, don't have no remorse for it, it's nothing to you, maybe it's not conditional, um, that is what you are. So if you just naturally do things that are good for people, yourself, people you care about, you give, um, sometimes you don't look for rewards, you are naturally fundamentally good. Even if you have bad tendencies, you are naturally fundamentally good because that is what you're gonna always come back to. All roads lead home. If you pretend to be good, or if you're bad, and you are just naturally no remorse, no whatever, doesn't matter the age, doesn't matter the gender, doesn't matter the circumstance. I'm willing to do that. The woman could go to Dubai and get shitted on, $150,000. The man could not believe man and man go together. If you want to do you, that's fine. Do you. You know what I'm saying? But me, I would never with him because I don't believe that. If they don't believe that and then they engage in it and it's just easy, it ain't a struggle, it ain't whatnot. It was like, oh, the money's right there. That's what it's gonna come down to. Oh, that promotion, that's what it's gonna come down for me to do that. If you easily do it without a thought, without no remorse, without feeling guilty, it was just easy for you to do, that is what you are. You are fundamentally bad. You know, um, and that's what it is. In the relationship, the girl is, you know, fucking up the dude, saying no remorse, setting them up, blah blah blah. Fundamentally bad. Um, she gonna do that shit to you too eventually. Um, you know, the man is, you know, goes out with his friends. He's always the one to we could have all had a dinner meeting, you know. First to take out the wallet. Y'all wanna cash at me? Fine, but it ain't no big deal. Ain't no point for them to bring us separate bills and then we're all looking at the bills. Let just one person pay for it. If they're always doing that, if they always wear their heart on their sleeve, even when they keep getting cut, it doesn't build trauma. It doesn't make them say, you know what? Fuck that. I gave my all. Now I'm talking about a woman situation because I always do men and women. I gave my all there. I did that for the significant other. I'm not. I'm gonna be cold hearted now or whatever. They're just easily able to do it. It was always in them. They were acting, So I think that whatever you lean towards more intrinsically is what you naturally are. It doesn't matter if you have tendencies. So if you're a bad person and you just have good tendencies, you are naturally bad. You are fundamentally bad. And maybe your good tendency is you provide for your girl and that's the only thing you do and you think that that's a good quality only, but you're doing bad things in society, committing crimes, this, that, setting people up, smiling in their faces, feeling more like, and people that too, like you are fundamentally bad, and you got more than you do. So whatever you resonate with more, whatever your meter is at more, you are the most of. We start at 100. We start at 100. So now we split it up 50-50. If you are 65% bad, 35% good, you're bad. If you are 80% good and 20% bad, you are 80%, you are good. You're saying you just have bad tendencies. You are bad. You just have some good tendencies. That's what it is. Whatever you are the most on the invisible spiritual or spiritual um meter, we all start at 100 and then it starts to decrease. It splits it up in 50-50. And then as you go through your experiences, your shaping, whatever traumas you don't heal from, whatever, you turn into one of these things or not. Good, bad, whatever it is. You know, um, you know, maybe someone went through trauma of losing a relative, uh, older relative, and then that makes them change their path, and now they want to get into the fundamentally good path. So I'm not saying they're incorrigible. They could be rehabilitated. I'm not saying everybody's going to be, but they could. It just takes special people to do that. There's not enough special people to do that. Like, I want to emphasize on that. You know what I'm saying? Everybody could think it could be done because I said it could be done. It's gonna take special people to do it. And it's gonna be like a 1% chance you get to meet or be around special people that's chosen from the divine. That's the only way that these things can occur. So let's say that special individual starts building those group of friends, and then those group of friends change how they are because they come in as the divine entity and they start building principles within their friendship. And when those certain things are broken, they hold themselves accountable. And it could be littlest things like one of my friends, for example, we go, this is not true, but I'm just saying this for people to understand. We go to the gym together. So part of our principle is, you know, if we're both free, and we set the date, we are gonna stay true to our word. Rain, snow, shine, fatigue. So now you call your boy or your girl, two males, two females. Hey, I'm really tired today, whatever. And they're like, no, remember, I'm saying, maybe they use certain shame words. Oh, what you gonna pussy out on me? Or she says, oh, what you gonna, yeah, you're gonna just dip out on me or whatever. You know, could be manipulation, but you're using certain tactics to have your code and your values and principles stay great within that circle, because that is the common denominator of why y'all are friends. So there's like no loyalty there, gym partner, shine or whatever, your word, no matter what, then there's no camaraderie there, and there's not gonna be no friendship. So at that moment, it's like, is it like you're building that based off fundamental, like good fundamentals, you know? And those foundations you're creating will now catapult in everything else you do. So now maybe you get into a relationship and you bring those same type of principles there. Second nature. So this is what's shaping this learned behavior. So yes, it can, the scale can be tipped based off if you're more than what, but it all depends on who you associate yourself around, what you're absorbing, how you also stay stubborn to yourself. If you're not stubborn to yourself, it was always there. You could always be influenced and changed to the other side. But that's one of the factors that will hold these people in regard of being the chosen ones and being true to what they are, is when they implement that stubborn adjective. And that of you being for yourself is what makes you either fundamentally bad or fundamentally good. Because you're powerful, you can't be swayed no matter the times. That is what you are. So if you're able to be swayed, you never was that, inside. It's not intrinsic. So it comes down to what you resonate with the most, how it's going to make you feel, good or bad, you know, and that is what is going to be fundamentally good, or you're going to be fundamentally bad. I'm not saying either is good or bad. This is for you to just look internally, metaphorically look in the mirror, and, determine what it is, with you. So I think it comes down to that most people don't hold themselves accountable. And that's when it comes down to what you're doing in this, how it's going to make you feel. So you got to understand that the person that is, in my opinion, um, fundamentally good, anything that's immoral, no matter the age, circumstance, whatever, if they're stubborn with that, to even also change the people that they bring into their life, because they're being stubborn and strict. That's them holding themselves accountable. Most people will do things because they know that there's going to be consequences. That's why they might do whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? But we could look at a situation like the workplace where they're not going to stab that person in the back, even if they don't know, to get to the top. In the workplace, nobody's holding these people accountable for doing their job. They come in and they do their job. They don't need a boss to be around watching them. They do what they do their job. That's work ethic. That's integrity. It could be even that's a worker. Now let's take a boss. They come in, him or her, and they set the standards and the policies, and they stay true to that. Even if it's a girl or a guy, even if she's attractive, or you're like, let's say it's a male boss, you're cool with him, and she's attractive. Even in that regard, that integrity, that is what the stubbornness comes into play of, well, who's going to hold him accountable? Nobody really. He could come in late when he wants. But if he told his staff don't be late, He's always on time. But who's holding him accountable? He is. These are the most powerful people. This is the divine. That's the only way that these are 1%. They come in and they change the atmosphere. I'm pretty sure people have heard metaphorically walking into the room, changing the room, pheromones, stuff of that nature. Spirits in flesh. I always say that. Special spirits are in these individuals for them to be able to do it because remember, there's no accountability from any opposing end. They're holding themselves accountable. There's accountability within themselves. That's the only way that they are strong enough to be able to change or elevate the others because they have influence over themselves, their feelings, their emotions, their path, not things, people, and whatnot. So I think that's the only way they could keep them consistent or not. So when we look at jobs, bosses, who you follow, paramount. So if you got a boss that I mentioned like that, you're gonna have a strong team and you're all gonna incorporate that because he or she is gonna hold you accountable to do that. So now it's gonna become second nature. Wherever you go elsewhere, you're gonna carry that same thing too. It's who the leader is. The person sets the tone. The leader sets the tone. So that's what it comes down to in every fashion. The workplace, the relationship with friends, um, uh, business partners in even a project. It's the leaders that actually set the tone. This is not realistic for everything to be equal. So it's the leaders. You're always going to have outperformers. It's just natural because some people are chosen. So for the chosen, they're the only ones that can come in and change the landscape, of that situation or the individuals. So that woman, for example, who's on a path to some dire consequences, one or two things is going to happen for them to do it. They're there and it's not working, and they will most likely sever the ties with the friend, girlfriend or boyfriend, with the whatever, job, whatever it is. After that, the people are gonna get on their shit because they're looking at what they lost. You don't know what you got until you lose it. That job is now calling you back because the other people that they hired, they just can't match the same work ethic. They're thieving in there. They're stealing in there. They don't have integrity. They don't hold their other people accountable. Oh my God, it's such a fucking disaster. When they were here, him or her, that place was running so smooth. Everything was organized. Everything's all over the place. That relationship you get with the next one, it's just discombobulated. You're like, oh God, man, this guy, my last man used to open the door, he used to hold my hand. This guy don't do nothing. He took me to that level. Is that now I can't go back? So now I'm searching for that everywhere else. In that regard, friends, it's the losing of either way. That person is going to elevate. It don't matter if you're saying she's incorrigible or he's incorrigible. The key factor of this is like divine. And women have this power too, but it's still 1%. It's still 1%. Some dudes will get with certain women who this is where the 1% comes in with the woman. Don't encourage them at all. They don't speak to the king in them because they're not in their queen. So now, in order for the woman to be able to speak to the king in him, she has to be in her divinity to do that. That's the 1%. So if you get with a woman who is verbally abusing you, emotionally abusing you, you can't be in the fashion of wanting to do things for her or inspire and step up. So she don't even have the power to like make you be more empathetic and caring and compassionate and loving because she's highly in her masculine and she doesn't elevate you verbally in regards and stuff like that, even spiritually. Don't need to say nothing, praying for you and stuff of that nature. So it's like even that, for that example, the man, for example, coming in as the divine masculine and able to change his friend's mentality and how they move, now able to change that female intimate partner in how she moves because they respect those entities. And if they respect those entities, they're going to see what they're doing is counterintuitive to who's in their life. You know what I'm saying? So let's say, for example, she dated street dudes all most of her life, and she's engaged in street activity, and she gets with a man who she finds interested in, but she's not. She's like, why am I so attracted to him? He's completely not that. Like, I don't see street in him at all. He makes her want to be better and get out of that life. You know, because of the strictness, him holding himself accountable and won't engage. She's trying to get him to engage because she likes him. So she's trying to like build familiarity so she could have sanity. She needs to be around where it's predictable. So now she's trying to change him into that. And he's stubborn and strict and won't. And he says, no, this is what we do. This is what we follow. And if you want to be here with me, it's what it is too, because I follow these. And she's willing to conform. That's the only way it can happen. But if he's easily going to just do what she does, obviously you're not. But that's the person that's not chosen. The person that's chosen is stubborn. People adjust to them. He or she changed that whole landscape of that company because of how they were and based off their leading. Their establishment and their team has become the blueprint for the whole company to follow now. He or she started that. That relationship now becomes the blueprint. He or she set the gold standard. Well, now I'm not gonna get with chicks that call me a nigga and do that because she was always calling me poppy, daddy, king, whatever. Well, that's crazy. I got served. So now I will never get with chicks that don't serve me. Or the woman is like, man, you know what? I will never get with guys who don't walk on the side of the traffic because that made me feel real good, made me feel real safe. He made. I love that. My safety was his priority. He's providing protection here without even saying it. He's leading with his actions. Boom. So in that regard, like you got that. So that those individuals are out there. It's just they're not out there everywhere. So if you come upon them, only your spirit will be able to identify. If you get in tune, then your body and your mind will identify too, and that's when you become woke. You reach that level of realizing what you got when you get it. Um, but it comes down to them being strict on themselves, and that's why it's like, oh, are they fundamentally good or bad? So I believe they're fundamentally good if they're able to retain their moral compass and their character and their principles and their core traditional values. They're fundamentally good. It doesn't matter if they have bad tendencies. And I think if they don't have certain codes, rules, values, and stuff for themselves, they don't care about themselves. They think they're a piece of shit. They know they're a piece of shit. They don't want to do better. They don't want to be better people. They are fundamentally bad. And everything, activities, whatever, group of people, environments, they're gonna attract that same thing. The fundamentally good person is just gonna attract abundance, prosperity, positivity, goodness, men and women. The fundamentally bad person is just gonna attract toxicity in everything. Relationships, places, jobs, whatever. Can't get along with your coworkers, can't get along with your business partners. um, you know, in every regard, environments. So I think that's what it comes down to. How you view yourself, how you treat yourself, knowing which way you are and which intrinsic feeling you get the most wherever you go, right or left. And right or left don't mean good or bad. So when you are leaning toward whatever, whatever, like just because I think it's bad don't mean it is what it is, but there's no good things to come out of that. And if you're living good and want to be that, and you feel like that is where you lean more towards the most, everything good's coming. You know what I'm saying? Um, and that's what it is. So I think that, you know, that's the biggest thing to identify oneself, know thyself. So I think that when you metaphorically look into the mirror, you have to decide whether you are more or not. And you don't have to decide it right then and there. Your actions will always show where, past, present, and soon will be future. Your actions. So that's going to determine it. Words don't mean shit. Your actions. Like you could be like, bitch, I fucking hate you. And like, let's say y'all arguing, couples. Bitch, I fucking hate you. But when we go out, you hold my hand, you offer to pay, you know, you open the door for me, you whatever, you make sure I'm good. You make sure I got home safe. Maybe they don't live with each other. You do this, you do that. My life is in your hands. Maybe they were having BDSM sexual activity. She was blindfolded. That's when she's really putting her life in your hands. She don't see nothing or whatever. And you're still giving the best pleasure, but you're also providing safe space. In that regard, it's fundamentally good naturally. That's what you're leaning more towards more. But if you can easily just hurt the people, set them up, the people you care about in the most fashion, easiest, then you are fundamentally bad. It's like it's your actions that speak louder than your words. So that's what we both have to understand. Even myself, I'm not negated from it, but it's looking internally. Like I can say years ago, I've already self-reflect, but I can give you answer. I'm not gonna say, well, I don't really know. I need to do my homework. From healing, you know, till current things happen, still gotta heal. From healing past traumas and stuff that nature, experiences and whatnot. It doesn't matter what bad stuff I did in certain environments and whatever. I can say, looking back to current, I'm fundamentally good, even if I have um some may say evil or bad tendencies. I'm more good, way more good than bad. And um you could see that in exes. They know I ain't in the ain't shit category. Um you could see that in how they all wanted to come back from, obviously you wouldn't know, but from what I'm telling you, um you could see how people like miss me wherever I've been, ex jobs, with colleagues and whatever, relationships. You can see how people treat you, how they act. All of that stuff is in direct correlation of how much of a good, maybe healing spirit you are, that divine that they feel, because everywhere you go has said similar things when they have dialogue. That matters, so it's about actions. That's what you're leaning towards the most. It's all about actions. It's where you feel like naturally, Quick, 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 quick. Answer. Quick, quick, quick. Which one are you? Quick, quick, quick. Answer. Conservative or liberal? Quick, 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 quick. Dominant, submissive. Quick, 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 quick. Traditional, modern. Quick. Which one you answering? Which one you answer? You see this girl do this online. What's your first reaction? Don't think about it. You see this man do this on a first date, girl. What's your first reaction? Don't even think about it. What's the natural way of you just right off the bat, quickly, without even like being taught any of these, which way you're going? If I didn't tell you which way was right or left, which way you gonna go? You go left, and I say, oh, that's good. Now I tell you at the end, oh, that's good. Or you go right, and then at the end I'm like, oh, that's bad. That's fundamentally bad. You naturally went to that without any education, without anybody seeing you. There's no cameras, without anybody um telling on you, without anybody knowing anything, without whatever it is. Yeah, bad. You know what I'm saying? Things you do good, you don't publicize. You don't looking for rewards. You do this, do that in relationships, jobs, companies, whatever, other people, your team, business partners, endeavors, projects, anything you do, places you're renting, whatever, friends with owners, anything you do, right? If it's a situation where it's just chaotic, toxic everywhere it is, like that's part of what you are. I'm gonna cut soon because I'm gonna be here for like 3 hours or something. But I'm getting into some conversations that I want to probably leave for Patreon because they real deep, like galactic, and astronomical. Um, but we shape our world, so it's circumstance and education. It's like what the verses is, but it's always about education. And education comes in many different forms. Knowing yourself, doing the healing, um, experiences are education too. People that come into your life for a reason, lessons. Like these are the things that's shaping all of that. If you go to all of those things and whatever you still go to, right or left, that's where you really are. Once again, I'll reiterate, all roads lead home. Always. It doesn't matter what you're doing. That was always the path. The pandemic didn't get to this point. This was always for me. Just to give an example, oh, that over there was that. This was always for you. Oh, took me this long to get to be a boss. Maybe the woman is saying, that was probably always for you. You do that shit effortlessly. You don't even, you dominate under pressure. God damn, you know how many people don't do that? That's hard to do. And you just like it's nonchalant. God damn, one hand behind your back while you have an apple probably eating. You know what I'm saying? Like you do the effortlessly. So that's where you are. That's who you are. So that's what I would say if I was coaching young men and women. They came to me and asked me my perspective. And then giving them light on that, it would be like, what type of man you want to grow up to be? What type of woman do you want to grow up to be? What do you want to have for yourself, society, whatever, principles, values, and implementing these things and staying true to these things, will this help you get to where you want to be? And most likely having that will get you there. And what are you going to do when you get there? So that's what it comes down to. So this show is always predicated on knowing yourself, healing, and stuff of that nature, getting back into our divinity. um Ancestral is the key. So that's always been the thing here. um and that's what it is once again. So this is a very interesting topic, and I'm gonna do a part two with a different topic name, different topic title. um but ask yourself that and do some self reflecting. Are we, if you don't want to say yourself. Like, am I fundamentally bad or good? Or are we as a society, in general, fundamentally bad or good? I don't think we can really put a stamp on are we, because I think it's subjective. I think oneself looking internally, that's more of the truth. Like, how do you view yourself? Because how you view yourself is, words are powerful. If I say I'm a king, I'm that. I might not be, people say I'm talking shit, but I'm just probably saying what my spirit is saying, because the spirit's in flesh. And this is an old soul. So they're pushing that. And they're all linked to mind, body, and soul. So I'm just speaking what I am. But then there's some people that maybe a girl thinks, oh, I'm a fucking whore. I'm a bitch. I ain't shit. That's what you are. You're shaping your mind to be that. You're talking to your mind. Now everything in your body is gonna move like that. Your actions, everything. So who you are and who you think you are is who you really are. Because you're gonna eventually be that. Spiritually more potent than the actual physical body. You're gonna be that because you're speaking to your spirit. So, you gotta understand, are you fundamentally good or bad? That's what you gotta understand. We can't dictate and put a stamp on we. Now that's subjective, that's opinion. When we say I am or you're looking for yourself, I am, that is the real. Because, yeah, so whatever you say you are, think you are, is what you are. And that's what it comes down to. So, your actions will shape what you are too. So I just want to make that perfectly clear. You got chicks out here showing their bodies and stuff like that who say they're not a whore. They are. You know what I'm saying? And if you got a man, it's worse. So you're an unfaithful whore. You understand what I'm saying? So you gotta understand that's where you are, even though you're saying that you aren't. Your actions leading in that because of the spirit. If a dude is showing that he's, oh, I'm a good man online and stuff, but I do that and I fuck over my friends and all this other people, behind the scenes, and I know that about me. I'm a piece of shit, but I'm good. I'm good though. No, you're a piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? That's who you are as a man. You know what I'm saying? So your actions gotta lead into what you are, but you're already gonna put what you are based off your verbiage, because you're talking to your cells in your body. So when you're saying I am the best, you start to be that because you're talking to them. That's in my second book, The Importance of Discipline. I talk about that. You could go get a copy. I am the power of that. So you shape how you are in your world based off how you think yourself, because how you perceive yourself is the truth. No matter about society, we and whatever they are, that's subjective. That's opinion. It's not facts. Because it could be 50-50. 50-50 chances is not true. It's like it's flip of a coin. So higher probabilities, higher percentages, most likely true. So how you view yourself is imperative. You're gonna track how you view yourself. You view yourself as being royalty. You're gonna attract royalty, and that could even be dumb and submissive. They're opposite. That could be masculine, divine, feminine. They're opposite. God, goddess, king, queen. You bring out and you push out queen energy, you attract king energy, vice versa. So it's all about how you think you are, you know. So that's how people perceive you too. So that's the most important about, are you fundamentally good or bad? We don't ask if we ask about you, are you fundamentally good or bad? and don't feel bad either way. It's just what it is. So if you are fundamentally bad and you feel bad about that, let that feeling of disgust or whatever be the catalyst to why you change that. I don't like that about myself, then I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna shape my character. That's very hard to do. We're living on like the highest level right now. Like running around doing things, everybody's busy, nobody has time to think. So when you can slow down and you actually come down and you're like in easy mode, maybe sometimes some people go on vacation and they realize this, you start to like look internally and that gives you time to reflect. So I would urge people to do that. Hold yourself accountable. Don't worry about people doing it. You worry about people doing it, you ain't gonna do it. Learn to hold yourself accountable. And then you go out there like, you know, just a divine entity, and then you now become this star and you can walk into a dark room and you light it up. You light it up physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. That's what it comes down to. If you don't inspire to be that, disregard this whole episode. Like, don't even watch it. I'm sorry if you made it this long. But if you really, you know, feel that that is where you want to be, bad or good, you know, get to that level of how you want to get that. It's just, always do the pros and cons. Find out mm, what will be the consequences for either or. Good results, bad results. Depends what people view it as. What's good and what's bad. From bad, that could be good results. From good, that could be bad results. From good, that could be real good results. From bad, that could be good results. No, that could be bad results, but I'm still gonna be bad through that or evil. You know, um, so I think that's very important. So, once again, ladies and gentlemen, you were tuned in to one of the most raw, uncut, unapologetic, real, no holds barred, the Disciplinary podcast. Peace.